With the release of the Jurassic World Fallen Kingdom trailer in all of its Goldblum glory, I'm sure there are many of you looking to get a quick recap of Jurassic World. Well, you've come to the right place. I'm MD from ObserveMedia, and this is my rundown of Jurassic World. Now, Jurassic World opens up inside a lab as two small dinosaurs begin to claw their way out of their eggs. We then make our way to the house of Gray and Zach, two young brothers getting packed and ready to head out to the resort island of Jurassic World, a new age dinosaur theme park made in the ashes of the original Jurassic Park. Once Zach and Gray make their way onto Isla Nublar, they meet Claire's assistant Zara, and with her couldn't care less attitude, she escorts the boys to their hotel where they view the park with all of its spectacle. We then meet Claire, a park manager, going through a business tour. She introduces the Indominus Rex, a hybrid dinosaur. And then the scientist Henry walks in and elaborates on the Indominus' genetically modified assets. Back in the park, Zach and Gray explore deeper, eventually meeting up with Claire, and then Claire, being overworked, tells the boys that she will meet them later. The boys seem very displeased by this. As Claire enters what is known as the control room, some banter between her and one of her employees named Lowry takes place. Claire makes her way into the helicopter where we meet the park owner, Maserati, or Maserani, however you pronounce it. He then flies towards the compound where they are holding the Indominus. We see glimpses of the Indominus. He elaborates on how terrifying the actual dinosaur is. We're thrown into an exciting training exercise with velociraptors. Owen Grady is seen to be somewhat control of the raptors. Suddenly, a man named Hoskins shows up and tries to get Owen to get the raptors on a field test. Owen is clearly not having any of this, and he tries to convince Hoskins otherwise. However, Hoskins says it's only a matter of time that this happens. After that, a man falls into the raptor pits, and then Owen barely saves him, showing that he does in fact have a good bond with the animals. Back with Zach and Gray, we see them ditch Zara to have some fun on their own, but it is soon spoiled when their mother calls to check up on them. From here, Zach tells his mother that Claire is not with him, and in distress, she calls up Claire to confront her about this situation. Claire apologizes and promises to spend more time with the boys tomorrow, and then we see Claire pull up to Owen Grady's bungalow. Claire tells him that Maserati would like for him to take a look at the Indominus. After a short discussion and a little bit of banter, Owen agrees and they head on out. Back with Zach and Gray, we get introduced to a sea dinosaur called Mosasaurus. And then it gulps up a great white shark like nothing. Then at the holding cell for the Indominus, we see Owen criticize the choices that were made when creating the Indominus and its captivity. Unfortunately, at this point, they can't seem to find the beast and presume that it has escaped through the claw marks on the side of the wall. In a panic, Claire leaves and calls Lowry in the command room to try and track her implant. Then meanwhile, Owen and the guard walk into the cage to take a closer look at the claw marks. Lowry deduces that the Indominus is actually in its cage, and the Indominus appears and chases them to the exit where the guard opens the door foolishly. Owen, covering himself in gas, avoids the Indominus, but the guard is not so lucky. At this point, the keepers of the raptors get alerted of the Indominus' escape, and then Hoskins calls someone saying that they may have an opportunity. Gray and Zach are riding the train as they have an emotional conversation about their parents' upcoming divorce, and then Zach tries to toughen Gray up. Owen makes his way into the command room furious as the assault team makes their way to the Indominus' tracker. They arrive to find the beacon attached to a chunk of skin. Owen demands that they abort the mission, but Claire and Maserati tell him that he's not in control. It is another trap, and the Indominus shows that it has the ability to cloak itself. And the Indominus murders everyone in the attack squad as the command room watches in horror. Owen demands that they evacuate the island. Claire yet again denies him, and Zach and Gray make their way into a pod called a gyrosphere that spins and travels. And then suddenly the man operating the pod gets a call from the command room, and he lazily shuts down the ride. Back in the lab, Henry and Maserati have a conversation stating that the Indominus has cuttlefish and tree frog genes. It's here through their conversation that we see Maserati's own hubris. Gray and Zach are moving in the pod as if explained in a comical way by late-night host Jimmy Fallon. They come across a grazing herd of multiple dinosaurs. The pod declares that they should return to the start portion, but Zach, seeing his brother's disappointment, decides that they should go off-road and have more fun. Suddenly after this, Claire attempts to call Zach but doesn't get a good signal, and Claire decides that she will get them herself. She quickly meets up with Owen and pleads with him to help her. In the forest, Zach and Gray are attacked by the Indominus Rex, and the Indominus manages to break their pod, and they run for their lives. Barely escaping as they jump off a cliff, Zach and Gray, upon resurfacing, have a bonding moment. Owen and Claire in the valley come across the dead Brachiosaurus. The dinosaur dies in Owen's arms, and Claire starts to see that these are actual animals and not just assets to a company. They look over the hill and see many more dead Brachiosaurus. Back on the beach, military forces arrive with Hoskins on the beach. Owen's partner notices and tries to reach Owen, but also has poor signal. Owen and Claire find a destroyed gyrosphere and notice that there are footprints leading outward. They track them down to the waterfall, and then both Owen and Claire have a short banter, then continue to look for the boys. The boys make it into a part of the old Jurassic Park where they find an old truck. They deduce that they could probably fix it up back like they did their grandpas. Back in the command room, Hoskin enters and tells Maserati that he wants to use the Raptors to hunt the Indominus. Maserati tells him no, that they will personally look into the research to see if it's an option. He then makes his way to the helipad to fly a helicopter. Gray and Zach make the finishing touches on the Jeep and make their way out. Owen and Claire, quick on their trail, arrive at the portion of the old park, and in the Indominus hearing, the Jeep shows up and Owen and Claire attempt to hide from it. To little avail, the Indominus discovers them and tries to chase them. They use an escape room and alert Maserati of the Indominus' location. Maserati using the military assets to try and use a Gatling gun to kill the Indominus. Indominus quickly breaks his way into the birdcage where all the flying dinosaurs are. This causes the flying dinosaurs to rise up and cause havoc and casualties in the helicopter, eventually leading Maserati to his death as he crashes the helicopter into the birdcage. Flying dinosaurs escape and start to fly towards the southern part of the park where all the guests are contained. Back in the park, the flying dinosaurs start wreaking havoc among the guests. Hundreds of casualties follow suit. We see Claire and Owen reunite with the boys and save them. Owen is suddenly attacked by a flying dinosaur, where Claire saves him. He then thanks her by planting a big old smooch on her. Hoskin enters the control room and tells everybody that they are relieved of duty and that he's in control now. Owen makes his way to the Raptor Control Center where he meets up with Hoskins. Hoskins tells Owen that this is happening, with or without you. Owen decides to lead the charge. Owen starts preparing the Raptors for the mission. He uses the tracker as a starter scent for them to track, and then Owen rides side by side with the Raptors on his motorcycle until they reach the Indominus. The assault team gets ready, the Indominus appears from the branches and begins to communicate with the Raptors. Owen deduces that the Indominus is also part Raptor, and then the Indominus turns the Raptors against Owen. The assault team tries to fight the Indominus and the Raptors, but they are far too good hunters. Claire and the boys get attacked by the Raptors as well, and they try to make their escape. Owen rendezvous with Claire. And then back in the lab, Hoskin calls Henry and we see the lab packing things up. Hoskin tells Henry that the lab needs to be evacuated because his mission went bad and the park will be shut down. And then back in the control room, we see everyone but Lowry evacuate. Henry then leaves the island with all of the assets. Claire, Owen, and the boys make their way to the control room where they are intercepted by Hoskins. And then Hoskin tries to explain how he's done all this, but he gets attacked by a raptor. The group tries to escape, but the other raptors corner them. Owen uses his connection with Blue to take off the headset on her head, and then the Indominus shows up. The Raptors and the Indominus communicate, where the Raptors then turn on the Indominus, and the Indominus retaliates and begins to fight with the Raptors. Owen joins them and Claire and the boys hide. Gray deducts that when hiding that they're going to need more teeth. Claire tells the boys to wait there as she makes her way to the T-Rex holding cell, where she demands that Lowry let out the T-Rex, and then Lowry, still in the control room, doesn't want to, but eventually lets out the T-Rex. She then leads the T-Rex to where Owen and the Raptors are losing the fight, and the Indominus and the T-Rex begin their brawl. Just when almost all hope is lost, Blue eventually lends his hand and they have an awesome dinosaur fight, eventually pushing Indominus to near the Mosasaurus tank, where the Mosasaurus jumps out of the tank and pulls the Indominus down into the water to her death. Owen, Claire, and the boys watch as the T-Rex departs and Blue and Owen share a moment. Then Blue leaves and Lowry then shuts down the control room. Gray and Zach's parents arrive in a container of uninjured people where they see Claire and their children. Upon a heartwarming embrace, Claire notices Owen helping people. She walks over to him and asks, "What do we do now?" And Owen replies, "Probably stick together for survival." We then take a long shot to the helipad where the T-Rex looks over across Isla Nublar and lets out an iconic roar as we cut to black. Well, there you go, guys. Hope you all enjoyed watching this as much as I enjoyed making this. Smash that like button and let us know down in the comments what movies you would like to see a rundown of. And until then, I'm MD from ObserveMedia, and we'll see you guys next week.